My name is Janice Smith, and I'm the director of the Spokane Piano Competition. I would like to thank you for joining me today as we present an informative interview with our youth and junior age division judge, Dr. Arsen Gulua. Dr. Gulua, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today about the Spokane Piano Competition. I'm sure our listeners would love to hear a little bit about yourself and what brought you to the Northwest.
Hello, Janice. It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Well, I'm originally from Ukraine, and I was born there, and then my parents immigrated to Israel, where I lived for about 11 years. After that, I transferred to almost completed my composition degree in Jerusalem, and then transferred into Juilliard, where I finished my bachelor degree, and also met my future wife, Asya, and after that, we've been traveling a little bit around, and basically all our travels were based on schools that we attended. And so we went to do our masters in Bloomington, Indiana, and then ended up coming to Oregon for our doctorate degree in University of Oregon. This is how we ended up on the West Coast. And after completing my DMA, I was lucky enough to get a job in Willamette University, where I'm currently working. Yes, this is how our life brought us to this wonderful place.
Oh, great. Great. It's lovely down there. I've been through that area several times. And it's really, really a nice place to live too. So, and we're fortunate that you're here in the Northwest. For anyone who would like more information about Dr. Gulua, there is a complete bio on the Spokane Piano Competition website, and that's SpokanePianoCompetition.com. And just go to the homepage and scroll down until you see his photo, and then click on the link. Arsen, what has been your experience with performance events and competitions, particularly those similar to the Spokane Piano Competition that are for youth through high school ages, and what benefits will students receive by entering these type of events?
I was adjudicating several times OMTA competitions, so there were different age groups. Their competitions, it is a very tricky event. For some people, it can be very encouraging. For some people, it can be intimidating. And it of course all depends on where do you want to take your career, and why are you using competitions. If you look at competitions as a kind of booster for, find management, find concerts, it is a really great place right now, considering how many musicians there are, and regardless of age, of course. Also, what I've been witnessing with specifically younger generation, that they have this sincere joy of participation, and that was really great pleasure to observe. However, of course, there is always a bad side to it. A lot of people get really nervous, and a lot of people get really frustrated with their performances, or just the mere fact that it is a nerve-breaking event situation, when you have to prove to judges, so to speak, that you are better, or at least not worse than your colleagues, your peers. So different experiences, different cases, some of them with a smiley face, some of them with a very sad face. So I assume it's not any different from professional international competitions where adults are participating. So it's pretty much the same, emotionally speaking. Professionally speaking, of course, level is different. The level of preparation is different for different competitions. Some competitions require multiple years of preparation, not only physical, but also mental. So kind of diverse experience, if that answers the question. But mostly it was a very good, positive observations that I could make from adjudicating, and that's from the perspective of participants. Now, from perspective of a judge who is sitting there and needs to decide who gets to go forward or who gets to step aside. That is, of course, one of the most challenging and difficult fields, since this is very, very subjective and we are dealing with abstract art. It is a huge responsibility for me to assume, to predict, to see something hidden that perhaps members of the competitions are not able at this point to project clearly. So I look at things when I look at when I hear young musicians, kids, or even more advanced young adults. The things that I mostly look at and try to discover, so to speak, is individuality. This is my experience from judging all these competitions, that here and there you would have really individual musicians, individual artists that definitely need to get a chance. Technical aspect, of course, is there by default. You have to have it, but I'm looking mostly for promising, so to speak, unusual artists that have something personal to say through the world of sounds, and artists who generally, should I put it in a trivial words, cannot live without it, you know, because music is such a field where if you are doing it because somebody else wants you to do it, usually it gets really hard down the road. But to consolidate my answer, what is my experience with it? I would say that most of the competitions that I've been adjudicating were very flexible, so to speak, and not very judgmental. And they are based mostly on encouragement rather than a strict filtering through all the amount of artists that are participating, and just, you know, saying, okay, this is the portions that we need, this is the portions that we need to let go. So fortunately, I didn't have that experience of rejecting people, and due to that, overall, it was a great pleasure to participate in these events.
Good, good. It is really a personal connection that a performer makes with their instrument, and when that comes through, it's just like magic happens. And even with you know, not 100% of everything there, when that personal connection is there, it truly is magic, and then the music just becomes incredibly engaging. So I appreciate your insights there. And of course, that leads me into the next question is, you know, how do you help, or what advice might you give to, especially the younger students, with coping with that nervousness and the stage fright? Because they're going to be, you know, they're well prepared, but sometimes that nerves, it kicks in and can really disrupt the focus and the overall performance. So any tips there?
Yes, and I would probably say that these tips would be directed not only towards musicians who participate in competitions, but also for people surrounding those children, young adults, and perhaps the entire system of our education. That is the biggest downside of our educational system. And our educational system, I mean, not just American, but pretty much all over the world that I'm aware of. Tips for being nervous or not being nervous. Of course, different types of literature helps, different types of literature that is directed to self-development, development of your spiritual world, your emotional world, literature that is perhaps covers such how to say, techniques, yoga techniques, for instance, yeah, or a healthy lifestyle where your body and your mind is balanced. techniques where you realize your purpose, or at least you create an image of your purpose and think about your life not as a social creature where you need to prove to surrounding society that you capable of something, but environment in which you concentrate on yourself and think what is best really for me, and what is my goal with what I'm doing. If it's something that you need to prove to someone, it's always going to be harder. Um, when we talk about specific preparation, of course, I mean, I can say trivial things and say that the more you practice, the more confident you will be with what it is you are presenting for the audience. However, um, we dedicate a lot of time to practicing and to, you know, all the routines that goes with music education. Unfortunately, we do not dedicate any amount of time to our psychology, so to speak. I mean, I'm generalizing. Of course, some people do dedicate time to that as well. But it has to be, in my opinion, it has to be balanced kind of in a 50-50 proportion, because nerves can and will ruin everything you do in a practice room, and regardless of how well even you know the piece, and you might even play this piece forever, and then one day suddenly for whatever reason you cannot cope with your emotions or with your anxiety, and then everything pretty much is lost. All your skills, all your physical skills, all your emotional skills that you are applying while playing. So if we think about that, if we think about how much time we use in our music education to calm ourselves down, we will face a huge problem where no time is dedicated. Again, generalizing, just if we can compare it with athletes, for instance, where they have personal trainers, they have coaches, and they also have psychologists who work with them, especially those who go for Olympic Games. Yeah, so it is very important for them to perform at their best, and they are professionals who provide this help. In music, it doesn't happen. I mean, the best that we can do is, you know, say to a person, oh, don't be nervous, it's all okay, it's all going to be wonderful, they're all friends in the audience. We know that that doesn't really help, especially when from the young age we raise kids in such ways that it's like, you have to practice, you have to practice, you have to practice, otherwise there will be a disaster, you know. So this is pretty much the main problems that we feed our students with this idea that if you don't do that, then there will be consequences. And this is pretty much when anxiety starts taking place, and it kind of grows. And every once in a while, you will get questions as a kid. Oh, you're performing. Are you nervous? You know, so these type of things, they definitely do not contribute to our well-being while being musicians. And health tips, general tip, we need to look into education system. Personal tip, educate yourself with special literature that helps anxiety, performance anxiety, and definitely healthy lifestyle, definitely some philosophy behind it, like when you're thinking about what it is that you think, who do you think you are when you are playing? So do you think you are going to be better or worse, if depending on how your performance goes? And that this is the very important moment, that we cannot associate ourselves with our performance, because our performance is just basically something that happens right now.
Yeah.
And who we are really, it's also 5 seconds later, we are somebody different. We have different emotions, we have different feelings. So we are kind of trying to lock it. We are trying to lock our perception of ourselves and say, okay, depending on my performance, that particular performance will show who I am. And that this is the biggest problem, because it doesn't. It just shows who you are at this very moment, and it doesn't mean that you can play better, or it doesn't mean that you can play worse. It just doesn't mean anything. That only means that at this very moment, this is the way you play, or this is the way it came out. Put it this way. But
So
yes,
having a good mindset.
yes,
About it.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, of course, yes, there is a side to that, that the more you spend on your program, on your repertoire, the more you play it in front of people, the easier it should be. Let me put it this way. But again, sometimes our emotions are all over the place, and we can sometimes ask ourselves, I don't know why I'm nervous. There is absolutely no reason. I know this stuff. I know these pieces. I played it so many times. So educating ourselves in that field is extremely important, and reading literature about it, that would be my recommendation.
Great. All right. Um, the goal and the mission of the Spokane Piano Competition is we're providing a platform for pianists to advance their musical study and achieve artistic growth. It's really kind of an educational platform in addition to a performance opportunity. And we give feedback to the students and their teachers through the scoring in the 4 areas of interpreting the composer's style and intent, their rhythmic accuracy, integrity, their technical mastery, their physical ease, and their sound quality, expression, and their general musical artistry. And in the Spokane Piano Competition, we're fortunate to have students who have never entered a performance event of any kind before, and then others who are moving on to much higher level competitions like later in the year, and they're using this as kind of a stepping stone on the way. So it's really covers a lot of territory. You're going to have a big job coming up with judging this event, but to be well prepared. I mean, the obvious, practice a lot, prepare a lot, and we can kind of take what you've said also with the preparing mentally for the fear and the anxiety. But how about practice performance tips? How do you practice for a performance? What do you do?
Uh, I usually do it in several approaches. I will work on a composition, and then I will put it aside, and then I will work on it again, and then put it aside. So this way, it kind of, when you use multiple approaches, so to speak, it kind of gets, I don't want to say into your long-term memory, but I'm not a psychologist or a specialist how brain works, but it seems to me when whatever it is you're doing, when you're doing multiple attempts or multiple approaches, every time you get to that field or that skill or whatever it is, it becomes more and more comfortable. It gets more and more becoming kind of your own. So usually we don't have an opportunity to do that. Usually as professional musicians, you get a piece and you say, okay, the deadline is, I don't know, 2 weeks from today. So you don't really have that. But when you prepare for competitions, it is important to realize that you are going to be competing with, depending what is the goal with this competition. If the goal is to just participate is one thing. If the goal is to win, then you need to take into consideration that there are people who also have similar goals, and they're not learning new repertoire for competitions. They're bringing something from before, something from the past, something that they performed in front of people, performed in other competitions, especially when it comes to international competitions. So it kind of supports my idea of multiple attempts, because I mean, through that type of routine, you are inevitably going to work multiple times on the same repertoire with breaks in between. So this is that would be my advice in terms of the practicing the philosophy behind it.
That makes sense. It like gives the piece a chance to mature, and then when you revisit it, you go, oh, I hear this now that I didn't hear before, or I feel this is changed. I'm able to do and add this level of artistry or adjust to my new viewpoint of the composer at this stage. But that comes with time. Like you say, I think
Yeah.
that's a really good approach to multiple times. And, you know, and of course, the success of any young piano student has a lot to do with the teacher and their parents. And they're involved in this process from the beginning. And you have any pointers, ideas, or opinions that you could offer to parents and teachers that can help their student, you know, not only foster a love for piano and for performance and sharing this music with others, but you know, there's ups and downs. You know, there's students that are just doing great and feel wonderful, and then they go into the valley of going, oh, this just isn't working, and then they're up again, and you know, it's not a linear process. It definitely has its wave action to it. So how can you advise parents and teachers to help with that?
The first advice that comes to mind is not to put too much pressure. It's that a child needs to understand that this competition is not going to define who you are, or it's not going to define your playing. It's not. It is only shows your current level of emotional management. As a parent, you probably want to make sure the child feels that there will be absolutely no judgment if things don't go the way they might. If you're not quite successful, you're getting rejected by judges. So it's not personal. It's not something that is against you. It is just basically shows that your level of controls at this point is not where it could have been for whatever reasons. Some of those reasons will be maybe not enough practicing. Some of those reasons, maybe there is something that you're doing physically wrong or emotionally wrong. But regardless, it's realizing that just the fact that you are participating in a competition is already a big step forward. But at the same time, you need to be comfortable with the outcome. So it's basically you need to like yourself. You need to love yourself without any reward. It's like, oh, if I get this competition, I will be so happy with myself, and if I don't, I would not be. So if you can not think like that and think, you know, I am who I am, and right now I'm presenting my skill, and whatever outcome is, it's not going to change my opinion about who I am and how I treat myself.
Getting that message from the parent and the teacher is so supportive. and you know, we know that some parents understand that, and that's why we're here today too, to, you know, help educate parents and teachers in this whole process with the process of performance and being given that feedback on, and whether it's winning or not winning. But and then the nice thing with the piano competition is that they can see on the scorecard specifically the areas where they might need a little more work next time and where they did really, really well. And that's, you know, the advantage with receiving that kind of a feedback in the situation that we're providing at our event coming up later this year. So we're going to run out of time here in a second. So, but I want to thank you for joining me today and encouraging everybody to participate in the event coming up. And we're really privileged to have you as a judge, and I'm excited to have you come up to Spokane. And any final words of advice or anything?
Thank you again for inviting me to this interview and also to the competition. The word of advice, I mean, as a classical musician, I start seeing more and more opportunity in the world of improvisation. And this is what I would strongly recommend. And when I say improvisation, I don't necessarily mean jazz improvisation, because a lot of people kind of connect those things together, because of course they are very closely living in the world of jazz. But improvisation as a general philosophy, like how often do you play piano in our particular case? How often do you play piano, or do you play music on your instrument that you didn't learn by reading the score? How much of it do you create on the spot, and how much of it how much of your time do you dedicate to improvising in whatever style? It can be free improvisation, like we are using in the Willamette University with Professor Mike Norris that is teaching that course. It is a completely different side of music, completely different side of our art, and unfortunately, it is not yet very much integrated into educational systems. There is not really much time and effort dedicated to improvisation as a curriculum for classical music. So that would be my advice to look into, and perhaps discover your own world through the art of improvisation. Again, not necessarily related to jazz, but of course, jazz is very encouraged and welcome as well. So yeah, and I wish everyone a positive experience with the Spokane competition, and hope it will be a wonderful opportunity for everyone, participants and parents and teachers, and you likewise.
Great, great. Well, I want to thank our audience for joining us today, and please stay in touch, as we will be sending updates and registration reminders as we approach the event. And if you're not already receiving our newsletters, just go to the Spokane Piano Competition website and fill out the contact form, and we'll add you to our mailing list. So, and we hope to see you at the competition. The youth division competition will be Wednesday and Thursday, November 2nd and 3rd, and the junior age division Thursday through Saturday, November 3rd through 5th, at the Steinway Piano Gallery in the Spokane Valley. So thank you again.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.